And because it was so much earlier. It's fun.
Yeah, I've just seen this like. The last time.
I thought I did.
They actually have it as an agenda item in Washington.
Yeah,
Stop.
That's and this is the idea. No.
I'll be
Gotta
okay.
put those glasses on.
You know.
Are there 3 different ones?
No,
Yeah.
Start
EDC
by
and
the-
EDA.
Oh, boy, it's only
Not the
Wednesday.
entire packet, but it's the majority of.
I gotta use some.
Oh, I did. Here, I find them and put them over here and cut the other ones out.
Good, how you doing? Good.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ready?
Yep.
Okay. I'd like to call the meeting, the order of the, let's see, the IDA first, right? You get a motion to approve the December 14th meeting minutes.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Eagle Island Properties update.
Sorry, Eagle
Eagle
Island.
Island.
Well, so we closed the pilot with Eagle Island, which is a fly fishing warehouse distribution company. About a year ago, give or take. And we were unaware until we were notified that they signed a lease with a tenant that provides motorcycle repair services that is considered retail. It is cause for default in their pilot agreement. So we have had a number of conversations with the property owner. And he has come to the conclusion that he is asking to terminate the pilot. So I think this business is really just to make you guys aware that we'll be initiating the process to terminate that agreement, which will make the property fully taxable, but will provide him with revenue associated with tenants. Katie, anything else to add to that one?
That's pretty
About
much
as
it.
succinct as I
Yeah.
can describe it.
Yep.
That sounds like a shame to me.
You know, I don't disagree. I mean, this was a pretty small project, all things considered with us. If you guys remember, it was a husband and wife
yeah,
operating a business out of their garage.
Yep.
And then growing, and I was supportive of it because fishing's a deal here in the county and it seemed like a good business to be assisting. Our agreements associated with the pilot include all sorts of required notices and a process to go through ahead of time prior to accepting tenants or other companies providing jobs and or occupying space. And unfortunately, they did not go through that process. And it is we're very early in their term for their agreement. We're just hitting their first year of their full 10-year benefits. And here we are. But again, lots of discussions with our attorney and his kind of walk through the nuances and the details and well, here we are.
If he had ownership in that repair company doing the motorcycles, if he had ownership in that company, we wouldn't have a problem with this.
No,
right?
we would. Retail
what it
uses
sounds like.
are,
Yeah. But what about Ultra? What about Van Bortle? They're fixing stuff.
yeah,
selling
so
stuff.
there's a provision in the IDA law that provides for unique services. I mean, Van Bortle being this Chevy showroom that is a regional draw, if not a national draw, is the sort of clause that we use to provide benefits to that. What was the other one?
Well,
Van
and
Bortle,
also
yeah.
that there wasn't, like with Van Bortle, there, there isn't another type of business there in the county, whereas this motorcycle company, there's multiple ones in the town as well. So there's other motorcycle facilities in the town of Ontario.
I was not here for the ultra rental project, but my understanding is the warehouse in the back is really what the project was. Our pilot supported their warehouse. Ultra rental, north side of 104 in Ontario.
They have a great retail shop.
Yeah, big
So
business.
it's basically all the provisions that are in the in the actual agreement. That's what the issue is, right?
Notice all sorts of things relative to who's occupying your space and the jobs associated with our benefits. the required notices, the process we go through, and then the provisions that allow or don't allow for retail uses. There's elements within the description of how the IDA can, in some instances, provide benefits for retail, but there's a paragraph in the IDA law that describes the conditions under which.
And is that, our IDA bylaws or
No, that's the law.
the law,
The
the
New York
regulation
State,
around
the
it?
New York State laws that
So it's not something we can change.
we can, but given certain conditions, right? So the IDA can support retail if it's considered a unique service in the county. Can you remember the language around
How
this?
many motorcycle repair shops are there in Ontario?
There's
More
at
than
least
one.
one more. The other thing is that this motorcycle company also came from Monroe County.
Oh, well, then,
And so that also, if a business is closing, which this business did close in Monroe County, then we would have to also notify the other county and the town it is in, like we did with Premier 60 for Mastercraft, to explain why they are moving from one facility to the next.
We can't just property hop as a business from
Correct.
one pilot to the next pilot.
Right?
Oh, they had a pilot in Monroe County?
No.
No.
But
But they
there are
closed
conditions.
in Monroe County and they moved here.
Do they have any employees?
They do.
They do.
It's on Main Street.
It was on Main Street, from my
And
understanding.
did we learn about it from the competitor motorcycle repair shop?
Main Street?
No, we learned, he called us and informed us of it, but it was
Okay.
already signed.
Okay, so you did kind of follow.
And he knew,
After the
that's why he
fact.
was terminated, so he knew.
No, he didn't. No.
He didn't?
No.
So
it's- I mean,
so we approached him and then he kind of backed up. and
we
said,
made our
okay.
deal. It was a warehouse to distribute fishing gear. And
Right,
that's the
understood.
deal. And then within our agreement, it says, look, you can't rent space, you can't, do all of these
Right.
things without at least notice. And if he had made notice ahead of time, there'd been a whole nother discussion or process we were going through. But none of that happened. He was, hey, by the way, I'm now leasing, I have a tenant and it's these guys. Like, whoa, wait, time out.
Okay, but he did notify us.
After the fact.
And
Right after the lease was signed by
Got it.
the other company.
So if you did it before, we could have renegotiated or amended the.
That's kind of where I'm going with.
We
Well, we
probably
couldn't-
would have had to blow the whole thing up and
Yeah, I
start
was
over.
gonna say, because based on what we talked.
And we do
about,
have John's here if you guys have specific legal questions. Are we covering everything for the most part? John, can you hear the conversation?
Yeah, I think you pretty much covered it all. I mean, if we known in the beginning, maybe we could have found some exception, but they didn't never told us up front when they sent their application and they said they were occupying the whole premises. And we don't find out until afterwards, they had a plan to lease, I think, 40% to the motorcycle shop. It was never disclosed to us.
Okay,
Oh,
that's a little
okay,
bit,
yeah,
different.
that
It
is
was in his
different.
plan all along. but he
Right,
didn't tell
but
us.
he didn't tell us. Got it.
We couldn't say what was in his plan all along.
Well, sometimes you gotta.
And the plot thickens,
right?
Maybe that's what this is.
It's not the only
Survival
thing
mode for
anymore.
him.
I would hesitate to speculate.
Some of those feelings going away.
When,
Yeah,
and he's not even a year into his agreement and it's,
Okay,
Yeah.
does he have any bad ill feelings about?
no, I
Okay.
spoke to him directly multiple times and he was very apologetic. In fact, he was
Okay,
like,
okay, good.
I feel bad. I screwed this out. I'm not trying to do anything bad. It's just, but in net benefit, frankly, at the end of the day, based on his revenue from his lease and what he was saving in property taxes, he's making out
Better.
better.
So is there anything we can do in our process upfront, even though everything is there and in writing? Is there any type of questions that we should consider adding to our interview process to?
I don't think so. I mean, I think Katie does a great, everybody does a great job walking everyone through the rules, the conditions. I mean, and obviously,
Yeah, in our application, we have specific questions of if there is retail, how much retail is in the location. So
Mhm.
that is a specific question there that
And
was
he
not
obviously didn't answer that.
correct. Right, correct. And then even in both the seeker process that he did with the town, as well as in our application, he never indicated that any of it would be commercial. So it was really nothing that we could have looked to saying, oh, well, maybe it was going to happen because
Right.
seeker said it was, industrial warehouse use. Same with the application that he provided us in September or August of 2021.
All right, sounds like it's on here.
well, If there aren't any other questions, we're officially welcoming Ken as a board member.
Welcome, Ken.
Well, you can.
And well, I don't know, I was out
Yeah,
of the room, but we are also joined this morning by Amanda McDonald. Amanda works at Lions National Bank. Has been involved with us in our loan review committee, was a judge at our pitch competition, the finals judge, which I hope you find fun.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that.
Good. And Amanda is considering becoming a board member. And just invited today to
Great.
kind of
Awesome.
sit and watch it. Well, she can always say no.
We need to have a member of the
That's
team,
right,
for
everybody
sure.
can-
They can attest to that.
Made it through all the finance committee meetings smart, so.
You did good, right? You're still here.
Oh, no, not quite, but.
Didn't run.
Yeah, I said it's already been. It was around longer. Oh, but Ken's been, obviously, everyone's met Ken, right? To this point. This is all relative to frankly. Everyone's on the board, everyone's on every board. So we're not confused about who's on what board and who can vote. And then, certainly. Well, an odd number of board members. Everyone's been great about voting, we never had things like that, but. And then, building on the discussions we've had about SBA financing, the members of our board, qualifications of board members. So kind of building towards that, but in any case, SBA or not, I'm very happy to have Amanda here as a board member, and Ken now finally is a
Mhm.
full participating member in all three of our agencies, so I appreciate, well, I'll say, given that it's our January meeting, I appreciate everybody's participation with these agencies. There's a lot of moving parts. And Amanda, well, so IDA, doing IDA stuff, Economic Development Corporation as our finance hand. And the Civil Facility Corporation is our not-for-profit assistance hand with either bond financing or our new loan program. So looking forward to a great year. Got a lot of good things in the books, and we're seeing a lot of activity already, given that it's already just January, but lots of great conversations. And I'm looking forward to a great year.
Welcome.
Amanda's already on the loan committee too. So,
Perfect.
loan
Good.
review committee, they can recommendations.
That's right up her alley.
This is our contact information sheet. I'll pass it around. If you do have any changes, if you could just mark it, so then we'll have the most up-to-date contact information for all of our board members.
You gotta add Amanda.
Yes, yes. So she is going to be on the agenda for the February meeting with the Board of Supervisors to be approved for both the IDA, EDC and CFDC. And just will also do the CFDC board membership as well. So then everyone will be on the board and we'll have the consistency around the three boards. So that will be in February. So yeah, so we have the contact information sheet. If you have any updates,
Katie, who is on the civic? Board.
right now, so we did postpone our Civic Facility Development Corporation annual meeting because right now we only have 4 members, which include Ken, Pam, Jeannie, and Scott. But the reason why we postponed it to the February meeting is because we are bringing it to the Board of Supervisors next month. So then we'll have everyone on the CFDC meeting. So when we have all 3 of these meetings, it'll be consistent and the same. And
Am I in conflict on that because I'm on the hospital board?
no, because,
I'm not.
yeah,
Okay.
the bond is done.
All right, because that's why I remember,
You're fine.
that's why I'm questioning it. Okay.
Right, yep.
Perfect. So as long as I'm good, I'm fine. Okay.
And if you want to scroll down to the next page, these are the board meeting dates that we have. It's normally the 4th Wednesday of the month at 9 a.m. The 2 dates that are irregular include the November and December meeting due to the holiday schedule. And then the CFDC meetings, they are, the February one is different from our regular scheduled meeting, just so then we can get everyone on the board. But then we only have 4 meetings throughout the year. And then the audit and finance did approve these meetings starting at 8 o'clock in the morning for those 5 meetings. And then the governance committee dates, we wanted to put something in place so we can have something available. But also governance seems to come up as needed. So we'll keep the governance committee, aware and informed of any changes we may see, depending on what topics we may need to present to the governance committee. Anyone have any questions, comments, or concerns about these dates and times? And then for the IDA and EDC, we have, our chairman, vice chairman, treasurer, and secretary. They are the same for both IDA and EDC. And then we've also listed our audit and finance committee members. And governance, yeah. And this falls in line with our next resolution, which is our annual resolution. This resolution lists all the people that we just listed above for the committee members. It also includes our attorneys. And then it also includes all of the policies we have. We just renew all of our policies every year. So it includes from procurement to, if you want to.
So an additional law firm we added.
So we do have someone on, we do have Nixon Peabody as special counsel, just in case that there might be conflicts with both John and Harris Beach, so they are available sort of on retainer if needed.
And there were not track changes on these documents, so were they all the same as last year?
They are all the same, but we did add 2 additional policies. One is the conflict of interest policy that we approved in May of this year, as well as the video conferencing policy as well. So those 2 have been included in this packet here. But with the policies that we've had for the past few years, none of them have changed.
Okay, I had one question on one of them, and I don't know if you're speaking about them, all of them as a whole.
If you want to, yep,
Okay, it's on the foil.
okay.
Are text messages part of a foil?
I hope not.
Yeah.
It's a good point, because sometimes you don't, I mean, I delete them.
Well,
Yeah, I'm not positive on that. I can research that.
Yeah, because that's a really good question, because
That's how we deal with USDA.
sometimes I save them, sometimes, you know what I mean? So.
I just
Like,
like,
oh, yeah, I did, but it's not,
Yeah.
then what do you do?
Well,
Right? 'Cause they can do that.
okay, so we'll have John look into it, and if it's something that we
Yeah,
need to
that's a
adjust with
really
our
good.
foil policy, we can adjust that and bring it to the governance.
okay.
Thank you.
Other than that, I make a motion, we approve all of those that were submitted.
Thank you. All in favor?
I,
Opposed? We need to do that with the number 8. Motion to approve. the
Number
county.
8, every year. So historically, I should say, every year, the county and the IDA enter into an agreement for the provision of staff and funding to operate the IDA. Case, well, if this is new to anyone, we're all county employees. Katie and myself split our time between economic development and planning and the IDA, but in fact, the IDA, the Economic Development Corporation, and the Civic Facility Corporation. So this is an authorization to enter into our annual agreement. But I have had discussions in committee, Scott's been there, and with other administrative staff at the county to make sure, I think it's important, I think, that we include the Economic Development Corporation. So it's only been between the IDA and the county. And we need to make a note that the county's provision of staff and funding also helps support the Economic Development Corporation and the Civic Facility Corporation. So staffing of myself and these 3, along with 50,000 in operating funding that comes from the county every year, that we use not only to support the IDA, to support its sister agencies, if you will. It's never been explicit in our agreement, it's always just been the county funding the IDA. So a pretty minor change. I'm saying it out loud so everyone hears it, that those agencies and the funding provided by the county will be used to support not just the IDA, but the Economic Development Corporation and the Civic Facility Corporation.
Did you say planning too?
That were Katie and I This is where things get a little
Do
funny.
you have a paper copy of that? Here,
It should
But-
be in your packet.
yeah, I know,
Maybe not.
I read it last night, but I just wanted
Here
to.
Just to like
So-
a side example.
Go ahead.
So like the CFDC was created when the IDA wasn't able to help civic facilities.
Mhm.
So the IDA and the county created this contract and now CFDC since then has been created, but the IDA isn't assisting with the audit services, the insurance, or stuff like that. So this is a way to allow the items that have been done historically to continue to be done along with using those funds.
Okay.
That they were put intentionally for.
Gosh, I'll give you the two peso version here. So IDA was standalone. Now, Ken, I think you were around then, or Kate, Pam, you were,
I was
right?
not.
Yeah.
I don't think I was around then.
The IDA was a standalone and is in fact a separate agency from the county.
Mhm.
Public authority. And then there's the county, and it was county planning. And county administration said, we want to bring the IDA under the county's administration. But we'll staff it with county employees in lieu of IDA having separate employees, separate overhead, separate payroll,
Okay.
separate health insurance was a part of the conversation, or a big part of it. So now everyone's a county employee, everyone's getting county employee benefit. There was a health insurance plan for IDA employees. It was very nice. County employees were like, well, what the heck? So now all of the employees of the IDA is in fact staffed by county employees, including Katie, Jamie, me, and Ariel. Sorry.
Thank you.
Budget wise, at the county level, we have two budgets. One is planning, one is economic development. Salaries for half of Katie and me, and all of Ariel and Jamie fall in economic development, and then the other half for Katie and me fall in planning. The economic development budget includes two line items, three in fact. Two budgeted and one that we fund with a resolution that fund the operation of the IDA. Like 50 grand to pay for audits. And some of the general operating expenses, operating software, loan fund software. Loan fund software being a key example of how it's funded by this annual contract. But the Economic Development Corporation isn't named as a beneficiary of the use of those funds. The small change happening is, want to be explicit about how the county's funding is used to support not just the IDA, but the Economic Development Corporation and the Civic Facility Corporation. Very heavy administrative budget sort of tied to stuff. It's about having everything in writing and being explicit about it. I know it can get a little confusing.
Yep, and what this resolution also does is it's gonna have IDA as sort of the main sort of
The county will fund the
Applicant
IDA,
or
then the
contractor.
IDA will distribute funds
Yeah.
to the
Yeah, and then
partner agencies.
we'll also present it to the Audit and Finance Committee to show where that breakdown goes.
But nothing across the street changes, so they're still gonna get an invoice from the IDA. It's still gonna itemize, what we are requesting it for, because it's in the
Right.
budget. Internally, because the CFDC and the EDC pay for their own budget. And the IDA pays for its own budget. The IDA uses these funds, EDC and CFDC can't, because they haven't been listed on this before, even though those funds are intentionally for that. This allows us to transfer those funds to be able to pay for the audit, so we're not in the red or in situations otherwise.
So that makes sense to me, but I have a question on the other side of Brian and Katie's time with the planning side, because you report to us.
Mhm.
And how do we know what percentage of your time is spent in that function? And how do we connect that
You trust me.
oversight? Well, no, it's
No, I know,
it's
I
not
know.
about who's around the table now, it's just clarity of, do you spend 50% of your time here and 50% of your time there? And as a member of this board for a long time, I really didn't even ever make that connection that you both had that responsibility on the other side too, because I'm not involved in that.
But Scott and Phil are. And I think the fact that they have Scott as the chairman of the Economic Development and Finance or Economic Development and Planning Committee at the county. Bill is the chairman of the board, or have automatic seats at this board.
Yeah, and planning.
Well, Economic Development and Planning at the county, right? So the counties, I report to that board too.
Yeah.
So
And
that agency or that board that you're on at the county is directing Brian and
me,
Yep.
Right, yeah.
and the intern Katie.
Katie's
Yeah,
time.
and then the other planning.
And
staff.
that's always been the tie, so that's why Steve Leroy was correct.
Correct. Yes, and Ken Miller and
So whoever's on the chair
Whoever's
or
served-
on that
yes,
board of
the full
supervisors.
county board of supervisors and then
So-
subcommittees of that board where I sort of report details of the coming and going of this department as a whole.
So it will always be those two.
Well, it'll
Oh, well,
always
a
be,
seat.
Right.
Yeah, like,
it'll always be the
Somebody-
chair.
I was appointed
Be the
by
same two.
Phil.
It's there.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's in our enabling statute that the chairman of the Board of Supervisors and the chairman of Planning and Economic Development are on the IDA board.
Okay.
You have questions?
I make a
about-
motion to check.
Okay.
Thank you.
Second,
And if you do have questions about how I'm spending my time and look, it's not always good.
we're gonna give
Week to
you a
week, day to
law.
day.
You need the
Please
law
don't.
every.
Every
Please
15 minutes, right?
Basically, we're gonna rely on you guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
Thanks,
and that's
Scott,
fair.
Bill.
Yeah.
I don't want to keep track of it, I can tell you that.
Well, we see enough of each other, I think.
Yeah,
so
we
it-
As an example, you mentioned the 50,000 that the IDA receives. It used to be 135 when he started. So we decreased outside expenses by bringing it internally.
Didn't you write a check last year back to them for like 43,000?
It, no,
That was a couple of years ago.
yeah.
That was a couple of years.
Yeah,
ago.
you returned-
That was a couple of years ago and we're, well,
So
to that point, that's up.
What a
Credit to
win,
staff
right?
for,
Yeah.
the county, yeah, we could get into it, but 135,000 was what the county was providing for general operating expenses and I made a concerted effort and credit the staff, really. We could do this in-house. We don't have to sub out all this work and quarterly audits as an example. Loan underwriting was a part of what was anticipated as expenses, and we're doing all that in-house now, and I think, and a great job, and a credit, we're saving money at the end of the day from $85,000.
And the county thanks you.
Yes, indeed.
You're welcome. But it's all, again, credit to the staff board. That's the county.
Somebody say something.
Yeah.
Did we get through that?
Yeah.
Our official newspaper.
Yeah, so every year we approve an official newspaper, and we've been doing the Times of Wayne County, for specifically our IDA pilot projects and other types of meeting schedules that we need to post publicly.
So move.
Thanks, Pam. Second,
Second.
Phil. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, I will need a motion accepting authorizing the presented 2022 annual investment and annual procurement report to New York State ABO Paris.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thanks.
Second.
Thank you, Kay. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Opposed?
Other-
Do you?
you're up. Oh, this is better.
One more. Yep.
This is IDA. So the top part is the bank accounts. It was also reviewed by the Audit and Finance Committee this morning, along with the annual financial review report and the investment report and procurement report.
Questions from anyone?
Motion to approve.
Second. I have two topics to talk to you guys, so, all right. Solar pilot agreements. New York state law exempts solar projects from taxes, property taxes. New York State Real Property Tax Law 487. As a condition of building a solar project in the county, we have been providing pilot agreements for solar projects. So a payment in lieu of nothing, right? We call that $5,500 a megawatt. There have been discussions at the county planning board, at the county board of supervisors, among town supervisors about the balance between accommodating solar project development and farmland protection. Our planning side of our office is in the middle of an update to the county's farmland protection plan. Lots of discussions at the state level about the specifics of developing solar on farmland. An example being a developer who proposed a project here in Lyons that if you develop or have plans to develop on a certain classification of soils in New York, you're required to make a notice to New York State Ag and Markets. Ag and Markets provided a response and copied the Farmland Protection Board in the county that came to us, to our ag development specialist, that effectively said no for at least 60 days to a project on farmland here in Lyons. And the sort of rubber starting to hit the road on this, and I am suggesting that we consider higher pilot payments for projects developed. So soil classifications 1 through 10 are the sort of gamut of, I guess, what we call prime soils. 1 through 4 at the top, they're considered excellent soil for farmland. So we've been discussing, and this is really food for thought, not at bringing in an actual sort of approval or resolution, you guys, that we charge a significantly higher amount of money for projects developed on prime soils classes 1 through 4. So right now we charge 5,500 a megawatt. That's every year for 15 years with a 2% escalator, plus 25,000 a megawatt one time that goes to the town. It's kind of the balance, the whole pilot payment schedule out. My suggestion is that we think about an additional charge of 50,000 per megawatt for projects developed on prime soils 1 through 4. So that would mean a 5 megawatt, which is kind of the standard community scale project, would pay another $250,000. To put that into context, 5 megawatts, they're around $1 million a megawatt in project development costs. So it would be substantial, but it would be if you have to develop on prime soils, there's a significant cost to doing so. It would be a way to balance accommodating solar and farmland protection. The outstanding question is what happens to the extra money? So we could collectively fund a fund, if you will, at the county to purchase development rights on other farmland. So there's this balancing act between losing farmland over here and protecting farmland over here. It could go to the towns as well to accommodate the loss of farmland in other ways, but I've had some discussions with our ag development specialist, and we're working through potentially what the cost of the purchase of development rights for farmland would be. We go through this through the grant cycle that the state provides for purchase of development rights for farmland. I'm putting this out there as a food for thought, really trying to refine this approach, but our county planning board, I know if the supervisors could attest to that there's a concern about the loss of farmland and how are we balancing these larger solar development projects. There's lots of discussions at the state about increasing solar and the lack of use of natural gas, the increase in the electric load. So yes.
I just have one point. If I were a farmer,
Mhm.
okay, and I was aware of all these things that you just discussed, I'd hire a couple DAs to strip off the soil and I would sell the topsoil and then apply for the pilot. So that the quality of my soil would be crap, because I'd be down to the hard pan and it'd be perfect for solar. So I think that you gotta be careful, because you don't need a permit to strip your topsoil.
But wouldn't it be based on FSA maps as far as the soil type? So if they do that, it still doesn't matter.
What do you mean?
So the FSA,
It's all based on maps.
Yeah.
No one goes out and samples the soil.
Oh,
No,
I see.
it's all done by maps.
I know a lot of other counties do this, like I know, I was talking to Lewis County here a couple months ago, and they do exactly this, and it's to save their farmland.
So. Because
This is tough. This is a tough
Well,
one
you know,
because
I just think
you're
farmers are starting to
bringing-
need income sources and, I don't know.
I have two two thoughts that are completely different thoughts. One is, it seems, is the county planning also talking about what is the maximum percentage of solar that they want in a county?
Well, that's a good point. And what it comes down to is the county isn't in the business of land use. The towns are. So the farmland protection plan, among other
goes back to-
recommendations,
Mhm.
really boils down to the towns deciding
What do you want?
solar here, farmland here, residential here, industrial here. Purchase of development rights and the process of going through making those determinations, the public participation component, comp planning, it's,
Yeah.
zoning.
Because why I asked that question is, it seems like it's just a money grab, that it's not gonna change the end result. It's just gonna be more money,
Right.
you know, like, because they're still gonna do it, raising the price, so there's money coming in. But to me, like, as a resident, it's the percentage of solar. And whether it's lack of farmland or vacant land, doesn't really mean the same thing to me, but it's the percentage of solar.
And
But
that can be,
But this
is a
doesn't do
really,
anything with that.
yeah, and that's a really good thing of why having economic development and planning sort of as one
Together.
department is important, because that, comprehensive plan is a really good place to address a lot of those topics.
But the revenue associated with this would be allocated to directly protecting other farmland. So it would have a net benefit to the protection of farmland. But again, it's this and the most recent application we had for a solar project, the property owner described. Here's what I can make farming the land and here's what I can make leasing for solar.
It really.
And I
is
don't,
that
it's,
simple.
it's,
It really is that simple.
I'm putting it out there as for the, again, not asking for any action, but there is a lot of discussion among the towns, our planning board, planning and zoning boards about the concern about the loss of farmland and solar development.
And that's a big focus in that ag development plan, and I think the goal is that the understanding that each of the towns don't always have the funds to re-update their comp plans. They would be able to, we are spending the funding that we received in order to do this new plan, the ag development plan, and so the towns would be able to take sections of that plan and integrate it into their comp plans without having to do their own studies in each town, so to say, if we're saying that correctly.
I would say, so NYSERDA was developing a strategy to charge additional costs to projects where they were developing on prime soils. To my knowledge, I went to their website the other day, it's gone. That whole initiative, and it was speared by ag and markets to sort of say, how do we account for or provide extra charges for projects that are developed on prime soils, because there's this balance of this concern statewide on the protection of farmland and solar, and so, but the state's charges were frankly, in my opinion, embarrassing. They're way too low. It would never discourage anyone from developing on prime soils, and
The state's got a compelling interest.
They sure do.
Push solar, so it's not even
Right.
fair.
Do
They're
we-
using public money to incentivize it.
Right.
Do we know how many solar pilots now to date are on prime solar?
No. That's a good question.
It's not been part of.
We haven't
No,
mapped it.
But
it's
we're,
something to
we're,
switch
we're,
up.
so, that being said. Solar project specific, we're at a minimum talking about an additional page or two to our pilot application, so we can garner more information right away from the beginning. And two, likely amendments to our uniform tax exempt policy, we call UTEP. To make sure we have the appropriate language to accommodate for the specifics of our approval for solar project development, including copy of that letter, or if required approval from Ag and Markets, that we see a letter from them saying, yeah, we're okay with this, because it generally has not been part, and I've never heard of or seen a letter from Ag and Markets until this one. Well, this is kind of build it as it goes sort of scenario here, and I'm really putting it out for discussion and food for thought on the IDA's role in, we're charging for the use of land for solar projects, and if there's a consideration that we should be doing it, not to discourage, but to find a way to balance purchasing farmland or protection of development rights over here to make sure that there's a balance between the protection of farmland and the accommodation of solar projects. So putting that out there.
Do you know, Brian, if other counties, they have a max of solar projects for their county?
Counties, no. Towns, yes,
Yeah.
but it's not, I would not say it's
Not common.
standard or incredibly common. I mean, there are some town, at the town level in particular, right? So not, we don't see a lot of solar project in villages,
'Cause
but
I just think as we think about the future, that is well beyond us in this room. This could be one of those things that somebody's gonna say one day. Who in their right mind wasn't thinking about this?
Mhm.
You know, because it's new, it's not new anymore, but it is still new. And, you know, the whole threat of gas, you know, everything else is just. I think it's something that we should be more visionary about.
well, it's again, a lot of times in case, you know, the connection between the economic development hand and our planning hand and the planning side of really is advisory to the towns who have land use control and the authority to accommodate or not accommodate or approve or not approve
Right.
any kind of project development, whether it's new residential development or solar or industrial development. And our business park study, our housing study, all of these are intended to help paint the picture, have some predictability, and, you know, read the tea leaves a little bit on, because we are anecdotally seeing a significant, well, drive-through Mass or drive-through Ontario, and you can see, I mean, there are a lot of new residential developments, there's a lot of referrals to the county planning board. And how do you maintain character? If there's an interest at the local level, the county's not here to tell the towns, you know, don't turn into Webster or don't turn into Penfield or Victor. You know, think about, I mean, how much residential development has there been in Victor in the last 10 to 20 years? Or look at all the new commercial retail development in Webster. You know, with towns that are, you know, 8,000 to 9,000 people, and looking at Penfield, that's like 30,000, or Victor, that, you know, Wayne County's the blank canvas, which is, provides a lot of opportunity. So putting that out there is sort of thinking about the IDA's role and how community planning, farmland protection, accommodating new economic development, all that stuff.
I have a question.
Yeah.
It's kind of different. On the pilot, so who's coming here applying for it? Is the landowner that's gonna lease to the
No, it would,
solar farm, or it's the actual?
well, so the agreement itself is between the owner of the project.
Okay,
So as a leaser of property, the owner of the project would be the party to our agreements.
Okay.
As a note, companies develop projects and then very quickly usually turn around, sell them to larger investment firms who, people who take advantage. But we're very particular we're doing our due diligence as an example of, we need to know who's gonna be that long-term asset owner over the course of that 15-year pilot. So that we know who our agreement is with, who's paying the pilot bill, all those very specific things.
Mhm.
Keep that in your back pocket, think about it, it'll come to the table again at some point as we kind of walk through this. The other one, I'll try to be quick. The county owns a railroad. It's called the Ontario Midland Railroad. It's the rail and the ties, east to west along 104, give or take, and then from Sodus down to Newark, the rail and the ties, plus the land on the north-south spur underneath, owned by the county. East-west is owned by the utility company. There's an easement agreement with the utility. This is a real long legacy thing. When Conrail disappeared and they kind of gave away assets, county kind of took it and has been leasing it to OMID, which is the acronym for the Ontario Midland Railroad, for $1 every year, and they go ahead and they operate. Some conversations have come up recently about the management of that asset at the county level and other stuff, without taking a huge dive into things. But for Bill's benefit and Scott, this will come up in committee and other areas. There has been the same operator runs a railroad in Steuben County, and that asset is owned and managed by the IDA. There has not been a regular annual management of this at the county level, to my knowledge, ever. I'm suggesting, and there are conversations at the county level about transferring ownership of this asset to the industrial development agency. I'll stop there. I'm happy to elaborate on any of that. It would effectively be close to the same agreement that the county does, but Steuben, so operate the railroad and break even. Operate the railroad and make $1 million. No one's been monitoring the books. And ownership of the IDA would, one, provide for regular review. One of the other hazardous material movement is another typical thing that owners manage or monitor leases, and say, you need to report to me how much of hazardous, what's moving through the county, and if it's hazardous, we need to know about it. If the railroad makes money to a certain point, Steuben gets a piece of the pie. Right now, there's nothing at the county level about that, and in fact, there are some questions about that entire process and the benefit and revenue to the county or otherwise. So myself, the treasurer, the county attorney, and our auditor met a couple times over the last month or so. Walked through this and discussed it in. We're gonna have a joint, or we're gonna request a joint meeting of the Economic Development and Planning Committee and the Finance Committee. Talk about this at the county level. That may result in us pursuing and discussing with our attorneys and otherwise transfer of this asset to the ID. Make sense? Questions, concerns?
It won't impact operations at all, right? It's just.
Here?
No, for the railroad.
No.
Everything will stay.
In fact, they would. We've been very engaged with the railroad over the years. We helped fund a strategic plan for the railroad. I mean, it makes a lot of sense
Yeah,
because
that's an excellent idea.
they are an economic engine,
That
right?
way we're kind of have more control on what's going on.
Control, connection to more day-to-day management of that asset, if you will, in general. They would have a home and generally had a home at the county, so putting that out there again, nothing formal. Lots of discussions at the county level with the Board of Supervisors on this to come. But do we need one other thing to manage here? But it makes sense in making that connection between. I'm a firm believer that the railroad is an absolute economic asset and one that we could be, just like the lake shore, by the way. So, that we could do, Scott. We should be leveraging to foster the right kind of development and well, the previous owners, the new owners have been great to work with and well, in any case, another topic of conversation that will likely come up in the near future moving forward. That's my report. I'll stop there.
I love it. Yeah.
That's good. Authorizing project resolution 4320 Canandaigua Road.
Yep, so we have the owners of K2 Brewing and 4320 Canandaigua Road. So if you guys want to stand up, they're gonna give a little explanation of the project. I did provide an updated IDA pilot summary. And we did have the public hearing yesterday. About 10 people did show up. There were no public comments.
Hi, everyone. I'm the mom, so they just call me K2 mom. Brad and Kyle are my sons, our sons. My husband is Dick. They started growing back about 8-9 years ago in Kyle's basement. And actually Kyle started growing and then Brad moved up. Brad went to college and is a chemist. So they both had jobs when he started growing. Brad stepped in and said, show me what you're doing and let's see if I can make it any better. And they just kept making it better and better and better. They came and approached Dick and I and said, you know, what do you think about doing this? Because we've talked about starting a family business ever since they were young. Doing all different kinds of things. So in saying that, we decided that we wanted to support them. So we moved up here. We were living in the southern tier. So we moved up here to support Brad and Kyle, and to help them in their lift off of their vision. We met in our first year, we met our 5-year projection. To say the least, that there is nothing, one of the things my husband as a work ethic has always taught my sons is that if you're gonna do anything, do it right. So I know a few of you have been at K2, you know that there isn't anything there that is not of top quality. Our food as well as the beer, I can tell you that their beer took off and people have commented and have followed them because of the quality that they put into their beer. They don't do any extracts, they use real fruit, real ingredients, you know, cinnamon sticks, everything from the beginning, and they can tell you about that. I don't know as much about the brewing part. I'm the mom who does the bookkeeping. Dick is the building manager, so we helped them get it started. We met our first year's projections, and from there, within that 5-year projection in the first year, we just continued to grow. And during the pandemic, even though it hurt some financially, during that time, everybody was locked in their house. They searched online and we tripled our followers, and people were driving from, because they had nothing else to do. They were driving from Syracuse and Buffalo and Albany, and even we got some from out of state, believe it or not. They were coming and buying cases and cases of beer to take back to them and their neighbors, and somebody would come up every month and buy more. So we gained quite a few followers during that time when we were able to open our doors back up. I can tell you that business had probably doubled from before the pandemic to after it. And I think part of that was people who just wanted to get out. They were tired of being cooped inside. From that point, our production had grown over that 5 years that they've been in business. And unfortunately, we are out of space. So we only have a footprint of a limited amount of space at the 1221 Empire Boulevard location. And we have utilized every single inch of that space to be able to continue to do production as well as our tap room. Our beer garden is known throughout many counties. People drive just to come and enjoy the atmosphere there. So at that point, moving forward, we had been looking even before the pandemic for a place to enlarge and expand our production. So we had been looking at different places. The pandemic stopped that. So afterwards, John and Tomaso had been helping us because our real estate agent had been helping us before and is now had helped us again. The school came into his purview and he came to us and said, 70,000 square feet, 40 acres. We were like, wow, something like this was absolutely amazing for us. To us, one of the things is that not only are we looking to increase the production and have a tap room there as well as the kitchen. And the nice part is that good part, bad part, Walworth, believe it or not, is the up and coming Penfield. Because Penfield's maxed down. They have nowhere else to grow. And they're growing towards Walworth. And they're starting to expand, and which we're thankfully able to be one of the first hits in the area. Other than pizza places and a couple of the local golf clubs, there's no other place to go and eat in Walworth. So we're going to be able to bring something that they don't have there in the future. So job wise, we're looking to take, because right now we average around 50 to 60 employees. And over there, we will be having the same, but in both over in Walworth, one of the nice parts is that we're not looking to stop where we are. We're only going to be doing about half of the school. The other half, which is a phase 3, we're going to be developing into event spaces as well as attractions. So we're looking to give you a few examples, possibly 4-alley bowling alley, miniature golf, golf simulator, anything that the area doesn't have. 0-turn bumper cars. The classrooms are so large. It's just like a blank slate. And we could do anything with those rooms to be able to rent them out by the hour for corporate as well as parties. We turn away probably 20 a month of wedding, baby shower, bridal showers, all types of events like that, because we don't have a private party space, which is a little bit bigger deal since the pandemic, as well as just people wanting to have an area large enough for their group to come and enjoy. So Walworth gives that. We could do numerous private party spaces, which again, each one of these things would continue to increase our employment. That we would be needing people to be able to be designated servers as well as bartenders and our kitchen staff for catering and different things like that. So our vision there on 40 acres plus, we've already have the local Walworth community asking about doing snowmobile trails in. So we're looking to do as many things with the community as we can and be able to bring people in. We don't feel we're gonna have anybody that we're taking away from our current location because we're far enough away. But we will be there to be able to reach out to even your community. I mean, it was a 25-minute drive, but if it's something good, one of our visions is that we are not a place to just come to or pass by, we're a destination. And that's what we want to become. Not only over at 1221 where we already are a destination, but here in Walworth. We want to make it someplace that people are coming to and are going to bring business to their community. So I think that's about it on my end. Is there anything you guys want to
Can I
add?
ask you guys a favor? Can you guys step in front of the table so that I can get you that? We hear voices but don't see people. Thank you.
Absolutely. Any questions?
No, Chief, you recapped very well. I mean, we talk regularly about our vision and everything else, and that was a good recap of it. Do you have anything to say?
No.
She did a great job.
Yeah.
Great suggestion. You ever thought about taking her on Shark Tank? It would be great.
I'm a talker in the family, so,
Great for Wake County.
Yeah, I agree.
well, thank you. We are so excited to be able to even, Greg Helmer with CMB had suggested reaching out to you guys, and we were just so thankful that you would even be willing to partner with us to do that, because, and I'm sorry, my allergies have been really bad today. So with your partnering with us, it just saves us so much money on so many levels. We just couldn't, I truly don't believe our project would be as successful if we didn't have you.
Questions from board members?
No, more of a thank you for choosing
Yeah.
Wayne County.
Thank you for choosing Wayne County for sure.
Where you got some more property on.
And oh, by the way, when you live here, you're used to driving for everything, so 25 minutes
Yeah,
is nothing,
exactly.
right?
Good.
And it's a lot different in Monroe County where, I would say Wegmans ruined everybody where they don't want to leave their area. You know, we moved up from Corning and, when I moved up, my wife and I lived, well, chased her up. She was in college. We lived on Ridgeway Ave. Kind of the rough spot. And then,
Yeah, it's a little bit there.
we're right across from Marshall High School now. We bought a house in Penfield. I've been there for 12, 13 years now and, or almost 15 years now. But I since I moved, it's amazing how many people don't cross the river. East doesn't go west, west is going east.
Wegmans is home.
Yeah, even like, people, you know, it's only a 15-minute drive to, you know, to go to Greece and people like, it's just too far.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, and even when we have talked about this, work this location, a lot of people are like, oh my God, Walworth. We don't, people, you know, trying to get them to understand that you pull out of Nosh, turn right, in 20 minutes, you're there, right off Atlantic. I don't think, you know, people realize that attaches, Atlantic attaches right
Yeah.
through and, you know, it helps having Greystone there too. I mean, a lot of golfers know, but, I think this will help, connecting both
Yeah,
areas and, right through and, we're excited. Even like our farmer that takes all the grain, is right on Walworth. So he, you know, it saves him, he said $150,000 in proteins
By picking up all our
His
spec
name?
grain, Bill Worthington.
Worthington.
Yeah, Worthington Farms, yeah, it's, because it supplements his proteins, all he has to do is silage and hay, and so it saves him a ton of money, and, he jumps around about 10 different breweries all week and picks up all our spent grain, and helps, I don't have to pay 3 cents a pound on waste management also, to get it. And it's a lot heavier once it's wet. So, yeah, we're excited, it's a great project, it's a big building, and, it'll take us quite a few years to renovate the whole thing, but we're excited about it.
Yeah. Distribution wise, we are looking to, right now, it's right, Beverage, who is doing our distribution. They're in 13.
I had a whole bunch of stuff it off, but you guys seem not to have questions, so.
Yeah, we're all of Western New York.
Yeah, this is the current distribution area. I don't know if you guys want to see it out, you guys can pass it around. So we're.
I do have a question. Are the new jobs, we've got new jobs to site 38, are they Wayne County?
Yes.
They're gonna have to,
We're majority we.
Yeah, we're hoping, a lot
people
of,
won't drive. They're not gonna drive.
we're hoping a lot of our, all our staff will stay.
Oh, right, yeah.
Majority of our staff will stay at this place, and we're looking to hire new staff, hopefully local.
Out of Wayne County.
Yeah.
This is great.
Yeah, to come work from us.
I know it's hard to get people.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would be great.
So you also gave me a
I
copy
passed
of
out
the
too,
floor
didn't
plan. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
great.
the schematic of the use of the school, it's also going around. So you can-
We're distributing strictly over Western New York, we maxed out
Yeah,
there.
so you can see the counties kind of ended like Schuyler up to, like Central Falls kind of area. And then the rest of the state, we plan on distributing to hopefully, but we just, right now, we cannot produce enough. So that's why we need more production.
So-
We maxed out our manufacturing about 2 years ago. We never expected to be manufacturing. I was a correction officer for 18 years. My brother was a programmer, and we just liked making beer and decided for a change in life, and we never thought we'd quit our jobs. We thought this would be, we just do this on the side and, be small, and
They kept their jobs for almost 2 years
Yeah,
into
and it
owning
grew.
the fire.
It grew big enough to where it demanded us full time, and when we went full time, we're manufacturing 7 times a week in 5 days. That's two double brews on top of brewing Monday through Friday. And as we're doing that, we still couldn't keep up, so we contracted through another brewery, Young Lion out of and use their tanks to manufacture our beer to help distribute, because we couldn't keep up. And it just sucks because you lose, you're losing 30-40% of your profits by having someone else do it. And we have,
And the quality you have, if you really want it to be what you want, it's hard to manage when it's,
and it's different water treatment, like, our water comes off Lake Ontario, we're a fan of it, actually, the school comes off Lake Ontario as well. They come off Hemlock Lake, so,
And I'll tell you about water quality before he goes on. I don't know if you know, but water quality changes the beer. That's why we have a softener at our current location, and it does not soften the water for the building. It only softens the water going into the boiler to extend the life of the
It's not as
beer.
common,
It's
it's not as soft.
we do it.
Yeah, we
carbon filter.
strip out chloramine.
Anyways,
Chloramine in the
they-
water will offset with your hops, and so we strip out the chloramine. But the water profile is so good.
Yeah.
There's lots.
It's the Ontario Water District?
Ours is Monroe County, but Ontario,
Oh.
they're similar. They're both on the north end of 104, pulling off Lake Ontario. So their water quality and treatments are almost identical. We've tested them both. Like I said, when you get into Hemlock Lake or some of the smaller lakes, your water changes a lot just because of.
But the water quality will change the flavor of the beer.
So a lot of these,
Just so
a lot of
Salts in the minerals in the water,
Mhm.
change the flavor. It's a matter, I mean, it's no different than you drink completely distilled water versus like mineral water. They taste 100% different. Yeah, same thing.
And you just distribute through.
Currently Right Beverage,
Yeah.
but that's so, and what got passed around, that is their area. So we plan on signing with 2 or 3 probably other distributors.
Lake Beverage.
We would hope.
no, Lake's smaller. So Lake only covers counties in
Yeah.
right territory. We looked at signing with them, and the territory is too small.
Yeah.
So, and they don't extend any further east. So our goal is to be able to go all the way to Albany, up to North Country and down towards New York City. With our first subcommittee will be just one Syracuse, Binghamton, North Country, heading that up, and then, you know, try to strategically, if you expand too fast, you get pulled too thin.
Yeah.
And, your, you know, presence of your employees and everybody there is, you know, really important, so. That's where when we do this, we do a lot of tap takeovers, so all our employees will be focused on going to certain areas and doing this, and then once we're comfortable there, then we'll expand to the next and move on instead of just. When you blast everywhere, you kind of get lost in the mess. and stuff.
Currently, we don't plan on taking over the entire United States and
We're a lot.
New York State, though,
Global.
we can handle.
Yeah.
We'll,
And the cool part is that Wegmans approached them. Our distributor did not go to Wegmans. Wegmans came to them and asked if we were willing to put our product in their store. But there was a stipulation to that. And it was that they were gonna give us 2 or 3 or 4 spots, however many it was. And we had to guarantee them that they would never run out. So that was a big ask. And
And she's talking about spots in the cold spaces.
Yeah.
Those are very.
Same here with apples.
they are very
Read the fine
valuable.
print on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the bonus of that is now we've actually acquired our own private coolers in every Wegmans that we're in right now, so we're not even have to worry about cold sets, we have private coolers. It's been nice, I mean, they're the big guys, we're actually breaking the tops, I think we have a meeting in a couple days. And we'll be into all the tops as well. I think we're in the 300 to 400 on-premise accounts right now, on top of our own.
Awesome, good.
Right now, our on-premise is probably, would say 90% compared to our distribution, 10 or 80-20. We like to get that up, you know, the distribution number up more. And it's just, we created a nice spot that people come and enjoy and spend their money there. We want to balance that out more. So that's what having a larger production facility will really help us to be able to expand more.
We haven't signed on with any new distributors yet, and part of that is your support and everything, because until we know for sure that we have the building and can do everything that we are planning on, we can't sign anything with anybody because you don't want to make promises that you can't keep.
Well, we got a product
So-
first. When you sign, they want
Yep.
to meet.
They do.
What is your timeline for like having something open at the new building?
Depends on.
6 to 8 months.
closing. Yeah, we would like, you know, if we close on this by middle of February, we'd like to be open by August, September. It won't be too bad. The biggest thing is shipping costs, then shipping. Right now, even for our equipment to come from, we have a local guy, Ultimate Brew Services, he's one of my buddies, actually went from dairy welding, sanitary welding to starting into beer welding and creates tanks. He has his own manufacturing plant in China, comes over and then he outfits the whole unit. So we bought a lot of stuff there and buying it again. But right now, one container is 22,000 shipping. And we have about 20 containers that we need. So we'll be $500,000 shipping. Yeah, and then our electrician even informed us that there's a lot of things that are on 6 months backlog.
Yeah.
So he's like, order ASAP once you know, so that's all depending on.
Once we
we
close,
close,
we can start ordering.
we have all the ducks in a row, we're ready and have everybody set, so once we close, we can immediately break ground and start. So it's just trying to maneuver all this into the final closing.
So they're the visionaries, they're the ones who do all of that. I'm the nag. So I'm the one that's going after the electrician and going after, get these ordered. How soon can we get it? When can, the environmental is done, the appraisal is done. We had the asbestos done and they've all come back clean. The only asbestos they found was in tar in the roof under the lining. We have made sure that all inspections, we even met with the gentleman who's been pumping the septic tank out to make sure that the septic's in good functioning condition. We have tried to make sure we've done our due diligence all the way around.
Yeah, we're putting in a $300,000 wastewater treatment system that by the time everything comes out, it'll be pure gray water. So realistically, we could recycle it right back in and use it again.
We're not, but we could.
Build a car wash.
Right? Great idea.
Not there.
Yeah.
Destination.
Yeah.
Car wash.
Exactly.
These guys are sticking around for
Yeah.
PPC as well, so you know.
Any other questions?
I gotta just tell you, I'm in this school district and, the community was divided when the school closed and it was awful. It really was. So I'm so glad that you're gonna be there, you're doing this. And I think it's a place for the community to get back together and have some fun and just
Absolutely.
move on.
Cool part is we're even like leaving the signs up outside. We're not trying to change a lot.
That's a good idea.
Well, I want to keep it
Condition.
as a school, there's a lot, even our banker, she went to elementary school there, so she's excited, but there's a lot of people that we talked about are excited to come back and so we want to keep it still school vibe. More adult use, and probably same probably.
As a beautiful school bus.
Time out.
There's still a padded room in the back.
That's great, and expansion, which is
Yes, well, on the 40 acres plus, I mean.
Yeah.
Wedding venues are in demand. Down the road, I don't know if you know where Blue Barn is. They have a beautiful wedding venue that they put up.
Yeah, it's almost years out.
Yeah,
But
they're.
relatively, on the east side, you don't have any spots. I mean, the biggest one is what's that ballroom?
The Carrie.
Carrie House, Carrie Lake.
And Big Hollow.
Yep.
So we would love to be able to do it a whole weekend.
Yeah.
Come on Friday night, have places for them to stay right on site. Stay for the wedding on Saturday and we feed them brunch on Sunday morning.
Campground.
How much better can it be?
Down the road.
We were talking vision. We were talking future vision.
So these guys, you're sticking around for our next meeting anyway. so
They have-
We're just looking for, Scott's initial project. resolution.
Motion for the project resolution.
motion.
Second.
Okay, thank you, Pam. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Good on other business? Okay, next meeting's February 22nd. A motion to adjourn the idea.
moved.
Thanks,
Second.
Bill. Okay, all in favor? Okay, I'd like to call the order the Wayne Economic Development Corporation meeting. Motion to approve the December
So
14th.
just give Deb one moment. She's gonna stop
Oh,
the
yeah, that's right. Yeah. Got it.
and change the agenda.